the gilded seed and the Dutch fever. In the winter of 1636, a single wooden crate sat in a damp cellar in Amsterdam, guarded by two men with loaded muskets. Inside wasn't gold, jewels, or secret maps to the New World. It was a handful of shriveled, brownish bulbs. To a passerby, they looked like onions. To the people of the Netherlands, they were more valuable than a cathedral made of silver. This was the dawn of tulip mania, the world's first great lesson in the terrifying velocity of value. The concept of time value began long before Wall Street. It started when humanity realized that a promise of future wealth is a commodity that can be traded today. In the 17th century, the Dutch didn't just buy tulips, they bought the right to tulips that hadn't even bloomed yet. They invented the future. Meet Peter van der Meer, a middle-class cobbler who lived in the shadow of the Westerkerk. Peter didn't understand complex calculus, but he understood the itch of greed. He watched as his neighbor, a simple chimney sweep, sold a single Semper Augustus bulb for the price of a grand estate on the canal, roughly 5,500 guilders. For perspective, a skilled artisan earned about 250 guilders a year. Peter decided to leverage his future. He didn't have 5,000 guilders, so he signed a wind handle, literally trading in the wind. He promised to pay for bulbs in May with money he hoped to make by selling the contract in March. He was betting on the compounding interest of hysteria.
But value is a ghost. It exists only as long as everyone agrees it does. By February 1637, the ghost vanished. At an auction in Haarlem, a buyer refused to show up. Suddenly, the time value of a tulip dropped to zero. The future had arrived, and it was empty. Peter, like thousands of others, was left holding a contract for a flower that was now worth less than the dirt it grew in. This era taught the Western world a brutal truth: money is a time traveler. If you can convince someone that tomorrow will be richer than today, you can rule the world. If that illusion breaks, the present collapses. Part 2, The Rothschild Secret and the Battle of Time. Fast forward to June 18, 1815. The fate of the Western world was being decided on a muddy field in Belgium, Waterloo. While Napoleon Bonaparte and the Duke of Wellington traded cannon fire, another war was being fought in the counting houses of London. Nathan Mayer Rothschild, the genius of the banking family, understood something his rivals didn't: information is the ultimate multiplier of time. In the 19th century, the time value of money was limited by the speed of a horse and the wind in a ship's sail. Rothschild had built a private network of couriers and carrier pigeons across Europe. While the British government waited for official word from the battlefield, Nathan's agents were already writing. A messenger named Rothworth jumped into a boat at Ostend and braved a storm to reach London. Nathan received the news that Napoleon had been defeated 24 hours before the official government dispatch arrived. In the world of finance, 24 hours is an eternity. He walked onto the floor of the stock exchange. He didn't buy, he began to sell. He acted as if he had received bad news, as if Wellington had lost. The market panicked. Rothschild knows something, the traders whispered. Consols, British government bonds, plummeted in value. People sold everything for pennies on the dollar. At the very last second, before the official news broke, Nathan gave a silent signal to his agents. They bought every single bond on the floor at rock-bottom prices. When the news finally arrived that the British had won, the value of the bonds skyrocketed. In a single afternoon, Nathan Rothschild had increased his family's wealth by a factor that defied logic. He hadn't worked harder, he had simply used his time advantage to manipulate the value of the future. He proved that whoever controls the clock, controls the capital. This moment solidified the Rothschild Empire, a fortune that would influence American railroads, oil, and the very structure of the modern U.S. Federal Reserve. Part 3, The American Century and the Ghost of Inflation. By the 20th century, the time value of money moved to the United States, finding its temple in New York City. But here, the story took a darker, more scientific turn. It was no longer about tulips or pigeons. It was about the Federal Reserve and the invisible tax of inflation. Imagine a young American veteran returning from World War II in 1945. He has $1,000 in his pocket, enough to buy a decent car or a massive chunk of a down payment on a house in the suburbs. He decides to be responsible. He puts it under his mattress to save it for his retirement in 2024. He forgot the most important rule of the universe: a dollar today is always worth more than a dollar tomorrow. As the US transitioned into a global superpower, the government began to decouple money from gold. In 1971, President Nixon ended the gold standard. Money became fiat value based on faith and time. The veteran's $1,000 stayed the same number, but its value began to evaporate like mist. While he slept, the opportunity cost was eating his future. If he had invested that $1,000 into the S&P 500, which tracks the American economy's growth, that money would have compounded. By 2024, through the magic of A equals P, 1 plus or slash N, caret, NT, his $1,000 could have grown into hundreds of thousands of dollars. But because he held it in static time, inflation, the steady expansion of the money supply, devalued his labor. By the time he reached old age, his $1,000 couldn't even buy a high-end bicycle, let alone a car. The history of the USA is a history of this tension. From the roaring 20s, where credit allowed people to spend their future earnings today, to the 2008 financial crisis where the time value of subprime mortgages was revealed to be a lie, America has lived on the edge of the clock. The story of money isn't about paper or coins. It's a story of human psychology and time. It is the belief that our work today will be worth something when we are too old to work. It is the most successful fiction ever written by humanity, a story that requires us all to believe in a tomorrow that is better than today. Those who master the math of time become the masters of the world. Those who ignore it are destined to be left behind by history's relentless second hand.